action that I think both our brains struggled to compute what was going on, and today's going to be nothing short of that. We have VainMY.Blaze versus Zero Gravity, and we can see that the draft is already in full swing. We've seen the Superman ban, we've seen the Kilgroth ban, and we've seen some of the traditional pickups that we've seen in pretty much near every game over the last few days. So let's talk about these drafts as they come into play.
So as you can see, like you said, as usual, we got the Superman, the Kilgroth. By now, the combinations are pretty thin. It's Superman, Teamy, Kilgroth. Superman's usually just the main staple of it. Sometimes Zenio comes up. But as you can see, as we're going through the picks, we have a Chognar coming out today. And that, honestly, is a pretty strong pick alone. As you know, the CC caused by Chognar and how tanky he can cause problems for the team. And they, of course, are going for the tanky comp. They have Arthur backing them up. And, of course, we've got Zephy's coming out and Joker with the damage from behind. We've seen Joker plays before. His rocket alone will just keep an enemy team at bay if they actually do it correctly. But if we take a look at the other side, we have the Alice, Malik, Murad, L'Oreal, and the Irie. Irie's coming out again today, which is really fantastic. It's good to see her on the board once more, and it looks like she'll be taking the jungle position. Well, actually, no. Murad's taking the jungle position, my bad. But she is taking the Punish build, though, and that is something that she is switching off of into end up taking another ability, which is completely fine.
It's like Irie can hear because you can go
both, but
right?
yeah, they like to keep you on your feet in the morning, which is completely fine. But either way, you can do both. If you do go the Punish build on Irie, it's actually best to go Leviathan. It's a common build that most solo laners go, and you can still push with it. But of course, it's a little riskier because, as we have mentioned over the past couple days, you know, it's keeping that jungle farm, trying to get to that. And if Irie doesn't get those opportunities, that is going to set her back. So technically, taking XQ is the safe route. And all she has to do is get them in position for a nice, good ultimate and execute. I think that's the best combo we have here.
Yeah, I can think that Vayne were potentially considering Jinnar when they had the Arthur, because we saw how what a great combination the Arthur Jinnar were for their AoE damage and AoE destruction. But I think the Children was pretty much an immediate answer to the Alice picked up by the side of Zero Gravity, because the sheer amount of CC she brings, that hissy fit, we've saw just the amount of devastation it can cause if put in those tight corners in jungle team fights. And again, with the Malok combined as well, and the L'Oreal, there's a lot of AoE presence on the side of Zero Gravity. So AoE presence definitely at the forefront of the Southeast Asian meta at this point in time, because we can see them both at play here. I am curious to see what comes of that Murad, though. Murad, one of those heroes that if you can get snowballing, if you can get yourself to the mid game at an advantage, he can be a real pain to deal with in the late game, can't he?
Yeah, he's. I've been through a lot of games with him where I've underestimated him, and he's just come on top. And the biggest thing they're gonna have to pay attention, especially now that you know that the other team has Murad, is you've got to keep that jungle clear. Now more than ever, you have to maintain that, because if you leave even one camp that's close to a lane, Murad will take advantage of that, go into lane, and next thing you know, everybody's gone.
Yeah, completely agree. And I definitely think that that's something that's going to have to be considered. Total map awareness of where Murad is at all times is going to have to be considered. But of course, incredibly mobile hero alongside someone like an Irie as well. There's a lot of presence around the map for Zero Gravity. They're going to be able to get across that map extremely quickly when it comes to these team fights. So if a team fight does break out and Vayne does have the advantage, I can't imagine they're going to have the advantage for very long, because people will be able to get to those team fights really quickly. Early stages of the game, we can see everyone kind of just spreading themselves out. So how do you feel about these two comps? Who do you think has the advantage in the early game?
Just looking at the comps in general, over the past couple of days, taking it into account, we're going with the tanky comp because a lot of times they have many things to answer the early game. At the same time, most of their abilities are still able to pull something off of preventing invades or even going invade if they would like to do that. Whereas we've seen with comps that have the Irie and the Murad, they, as aggressive as you think they could be, they'd have to be extra careful against these guys because of that fact.
Yeah, you can see Malok having to deal with that side lane of of Arthur and Chagnar. Meanwhile, we see Alice being used to gank in the top lane, and that's going to be Zenial forced to dive out of there. Not too much damage dealt, but a really good sign of aggression there from the Zero Gravity side. Meanwhile, Malok in the bottom lane holding his own relatively well in these early stages before those before the minions get buffed, you are going to see him able to kind of farm quite safely under tower. But we can see this jungle support roaming meta coming into play already here with the Alice and the Murad.
And I'm really excited to be seeing this. You know, on NA, I keep talking about how we don't have enough of the roams, and they play support in the like a dual lane situation, and that's not necessarily bad, but roam just has more potential roaming off of it, and that's what I like to see here. And they're taking advantage of that. Alice is moving about. We know her potential as it is, and as long as she keeps providing their team, as you can see, they're moving in about 2s to 3s, and they're always looking for a rotation to run with. They can make this work very well. And of course, Dragon is up, and it looks like Arthur is going to start at least baiting it out, seeing what the team is going to do to get Zero Gravity out there.
Yeah, you can see both teams now aware of Abyssal Dragon's presence, both dancing around it that little bit. Something to talk about with both Murad and Alice. Both heroes relatively weak in the early game, so them roaming together offers each of them that little bit more safety and security and allows them to get to that mid game in a much better and more comfortable position. Now with the Abyssal Dragon up, you can see it has been pulled out by the side of VainMY.Blaze. Not much damage going down though, and very much aware from Zero Gravity as they circle around the backside. You can see Joker took a little bit of damage there from the Murad. Zero, in fact, managed to get a little bit of damage there. And with Murad's presence, you've always got to be aware of where you're positioned, because if you even have a quarter of your health left, you are potentially dead and waiting to happen with a Murad around in the jungle. Now the team's starting to circle back towards Abyssal once again.
And this isn't a common strategy we see. However, it's a really good strategy, and usually the support would be doing this, and that is to keep constantly pulling Dragon. There was this one game I saw where the Mina was always on the Dragon, pulling it even if nobody was there, but somebody would always scout it out, and it draws the attention because they're like, are they going to Dragon or not? At times it works because then you're taking another objective elsewhere, and because of that, I think these guys are kind of doing that. As you can see, they do want Dragon. I can see it. They really want it, but they know that Zero Gravity is watching them, so they're gonna try and bait this out. And of course, here comes Murad starting into that fight right there, and we see the damage that he's able to do getting off of that camp, and that's what they need to watch out for. And another thing we have to mention here is they have Murad and Irie that can get to Joker. However, Joker's trump card is the fact that he can negate that damage for a couple seconds, and we know what a couple seconds can do in this kind of game.
Yeah, a couple of seconds counts for a lot in Arena of Valor, where normally we've seen upwards of 5 kills by this point in some games already. But so far today, relatively passive from both sides. I say that just as the teams start getting a little bit more aggressive fight, but it's Abyssal Dragon now. We did see an early Hissy Fit used there, trying to zone for the Abyssal Dragon, but it does force a reset there. Zero Gravity managing to drive VainMY.Blaze away. And again, trading out a little bit of damage, but the aggression still relatively small at these stages, as both teams still trying to find their footing, still trying to suss each of them out. Mantle now picked up for Arthur on the side of Vain. That will allow him to do that little bit more damage, and of course have that AoE presence even more so. Both members now of the VainMY.Blaze side now on the bottom side here, scouting out the Abyssal, but they are the minority as 4 members of Zero Gravity start making their way through that Abyssal Dragon. Can they get there quick enough? Can Arthur go in with the steal? Not against a Murad with that ultimate, not a chance. But nice smooth pickup there for Zero Gravity.
Yeah, that was a very good pickup, and right there, that's where we saw Murad's full potential. And one of the things that one of my friends told me about is, especially with Murad here, and we can see him getting it, once he gets those 4 stacks, you are in trouble. And he can get it in team fights. It's a little risky what he's doing right now, but if he can pull it off, you just have to either give it up or somehow have a protective shield around it. But when it comes to objectives in general, like Dragon and such, you are most likely going to lose that trade about 70% of the time, actually.
Yeah, it's not a favourable trade. This is a vulnerable position now for Zephys as well, because the ultimate is going to be coming out for Murad. He will use it to negate most of that damage, but he's still in a bad position. That is going to be a kill picked up onto the Zephys by Malok, as Shock came down to great effect. That's another kill going in favour of L'Oreal this time, as she takes down Arthur, forcing the back out of Malok. Murad still sitting on very low health, will just use that to farm the minions up and keep himself healthy and farmed and sustained from those. But that was a nice 2-for-2 trade that we've seen now. Vain and Zero Gravity now equal on those kills, but the gold lead ever so slightly in favor of VainMY.Blaze, despite that Abyssal Dragon pickup by Zero Gravity.
Zero Gravity is currently playing the kind of safe game and cantrip game at the same time. They are depending on that Murad to get where he needs to go, and it is happening. He's getting in position every time. He has his jungle where he's going. They haven't really done any invades yet because they're not ready for that. But Irie doing her own thing, keeping that Zenio for where he can. She is struggling a tiny bit, but not too much here. Of course, Vayne, although they do know these opportunities because they're paying attention to their positioning, they are keeping that gold in front of them as much as they can. And of course, we are going to see a gank coming down from Joker bottom here. Joker mid has actually been getting up in the ranks lately.
Yeah, it's extremely prevalent in Southeast Asia. It hasn't made its way over to the EU region. I've not seen it too much in the NA region either. But because of his range, because of his clear, the ability to clear the wave so effectively, he does actually make a very good mid laner. And it does allow for potential more obscure side laners and more heavy mage pickups. Obviously, I've seen in EU, on the occasions when I have seen Joker being played mid, it allows for heroes such as Praetor to get played in the side lane, where if you are playing with a support that's going to lock down a hero, Praetor and people like that will shine, and also offer the support offers a lot of appeal for those kind of later game mages. So things like Kali and Praetor, having a support alongside them in a duo lane can really actually do them a lot of good, because they will feel a lot safer. They are relatively squishy and relatively immobile in those early stages. That said, don't have any squishy mages on the sideline this time. We just have a big winged demon going against an Arthur in the side lanes, and meanwhile in top we saw the Zenio and the Irie just trading it out. But Abyssal Dragon is being taken. Shock hasn't been used yet, but there is the Angelic Splendor regardless, and Abyssal Dragon will be taken. In fact, Arthur managing to take that one away. That is going to go in the favor of VainMY.Blaze. Meanwhile, we did see Malok pick up the kill onto Zephyrus. Zenio will be dashing over, trying to do what he can. Irie is going to dash in, stun onto the Joker. Joker will try to go away, uses the Laughing Gas canister to pull himself out to safety, but he is still relatively low and is going to potentially go down here. L'Oreal managed to pick up that kill regardless with the help of the friendship from Alice. Did get the speed up, did manage to secure that kill. So really nice pick up there for Zero Gravity. Now even on Abyssal Dragons though, because that one did go over in the favor of VainMY.Blaze.
And right there, we did see Zero Gravity actually do a pretty interesting combination of positioning as they were going around on all sides, and at that point they were fighting a dragon, and yeah, Arthur did get a chance to get in the dragon, but after they realized that, Irie got into position, went for the backline, and because of that, Joker wasn't able to negate the damage like we were talking about, and as he got chased, she did miss the last shuriken, but it was picked up by Laurel, able to catch up, and from there everybody just scattered like flies, and that's what you want to do. I mean, even, yeah, they took the dragon, and objectives, very important, we've emphasized this over the past couple days, but if you can get some kind of trade off of it that's just as worth as it or close to it, then take it, and in that case they were able to do that.
Yeah, we did see another couple of kills picked up in the mid lane by Zero Gravity a little bit earlier there. Zenio and Chalgner trying to defend that mid turret. Zenio managed to get caught out, and Chalgner just overstaying his welcome as the mid tower did go down. So Zero Gravity picking up the first tower of the game there, puts them in a slight advantage, but now we can see Vayne in again being caught out. Zephyrus taking tower shots now, in fact, and he's definitely going to die. Angelic Splendor used, but a little bit late, does put Zenio in a vulnerable position, but is going to manage to dash away. Murad senses blood and will dive in as well, but dashes quickly back out, realizing there's not a kill to be had there. Meanwhile, Irie in the top lane, that tower is long gone, and they are pushing their way through. We can see Murad here does use his abilities to great effect. Often you'll see them dash back out. This Murad playing very aggressive here, uses his ultimate as best he can. Shock does come down as well, but Arthur manages to secure the kill onto the Murad. That's a nice pickup there for L'Oreal, as well as a third kill there onto the Arthur. Great work there from the side of VainMY.Blaze. They are really putting in some serious work here. So yeah, not VainMY.Blaze, sorry, Zero Gravity, my apologies. But yeah, we can see a lot of work being put in by Zero Gravity, and as they make their way towards this bottom turret, there isn't much of a way. Chalgner should be able to defend it, and Alice is not the person you want pushing this tower.
And that earlier play with the Murad that we saw, the really aggressiveness that we're talking about, that was the one mistake that a lot of Murads need to watch out for, is you may have your ultimate, but if you're in the face of someone like Arthur and they've got some kind of AoE working up around them, that is actually going to work to your disadvantage. And of course, he did get stomped on about twice or so, and then pushed back. And as we can see, another dragon's about to be taken here, and Vayne's not going to take back and step back on that one, and they are going to go in, and this time Chognar is able to take it, and we talked about his potential as well and how tanky he can be, and he's taking it. In this case though, Malik is just going to shred him, and he is going to be taken down, but you can't underestimate his CC. It's very, very useful within this meta right now.
Yeah, incredibly useful, and obviously the cleanse as well. The protection that he offers to teammates in these big AoE situations. The last thing you want is to be stuck in a hissy fit as a team, as a group. So having that cleanse and that ultimate ability to kind of get his team out of action will definitely work to his advantage. A nice smooth pickup there for the side of Zero Gravity as they pick up the. Zephyr's, sorry. Challenger and Zephyr's both dead at this point in time as they push in on this tower. There is an Arthur trying to defend it, but might not be enough as L'Oreal pressures in. There's the smite used. Is going to be using the roll. Shot comes down. Isn't quite going to connect as Zephyr's, as Zenial dies out of the way. Murad, meanwhile, is farming in the back lines, trying to get himself to that late game Murad that we're all scared of. How are you feeling about this game so far?
The one key thing, and that's actually keeping up on these guys, although it looks like Zero Gravity's playing defensively, the aggressive plays they put against it, the counter aggression, is just so good right now. And we saw like an example with Chagnar Zenio right now. They're still able to shred them. Joker's still in danger. He's not able to be protected. So it's looking a little shaky for Vayne right now if they're not able to keep their key players on the board. And another thing that we just saw earlier, L'Oreal. Key to her is aggression. Like, she's as aggressive as if we ever talked about Teamy, because if you play passive with L'Oreal, although that may seem to work in the beginning, that's actually hindering your progress. So the more she gets in their face, the more she decides to go use and then activate the wheel and go in with it, like how she's doing right now, that is going to help them a lot.
Yeah, you were speaking of aggression, and immediately we saw some aggression coming out from the L'Oreal. Meanwhile, we did see the dive in from the Arthur. He's quickly got himself out of action, as did Zenial. But this mid tower is extremely low right now. Murad is going to dive in. Ultimate will be used, and he will go quickly out, pulling Zenial with him as Zenial dived to him and caught him on the dash back. But that's huge damage coming out, and L'Oreal will be picking up that kill onto Zenial, still throwing out those wheels, and that tower is going to go down as well. Malok on the back line is still being the tanky Malok that we know and love, and Murad, meanwhile, is just coming in, throwing out these skills. Now, this is a bad position to be in, because if they don't clear those jungles, those jungle minions, they are going to allow Murad to siege on them pretty well. But you can see so far, Zeph is doing a great job of keeping most of the jungle at bay. Bissell Dragon is going to fall, and that's a nice pickup there. Malok actually securing that one for Zero Gravity. Meanwhile, Murad just taking away the blue on the top there. So both teams now have a moment of respite, but the advantage now falling firmly in favor of Zero Gravity as they push into the middle a little bit more as well. Murad just going to be dodging and diving. This game's slowly creeping towards Zero Gravity's favor.
Yeah, so we saw at the beginning, and this was pretty common from yesterday's game as well, is one team starts off defensively. But, of course, a lot of times there was a team that played too defensive and they didn't take action. What these guys are doing is they're doing counter-aggressive plays, which is what's working for them. And they are going to go ahead and get on this Dark Slayer right now, which is a very good opportunity. Not that Vayne doesn't see it unnoticed. So what they're doing is they're trying to bait Vayne out every single time. There's like, come and get it. And as we saw earlier, like Zenio, for example, he got shredded and was nothing able to do against it. And they're just going through it. So that if the tanks are able to get taken down, you have to imagine if they're able to get to Joker or even Zephy's at this point, they are in huge danger. So they're trying to nitpick the plays, but Zero Gravity is just feeding them right where they want to be.
Yeah, Vayne in a really good position right now, because what happened there was Arthur pushed the bot lane so the minions would be taking the bot tower. It forced Irie to back and answer that call, so she ended up in bot, but that allowed 5 members of Vayne to be top. However, despite that, you can see that the aggression coming out from Zero Gravity here is paying dividends as they pick up kill after kill. Zephyr's now going down. Murad is doing some serious work here as they push forward. That's a Zenio on the wrong side of the tracks. He's going to have to get himself out of dodge. He does dive into the Slayer pit, but that's probably just going to give the enemy some ideas on what to do after they've killed him. And Murad manages to take down Zenio, and that's straight away onto the Dark Slayer. Nice and low already, and that's an easy pick up there for the side of Zero Gravity. What can be done right now? Because I've got to feel if you are VainMY.Blaze, it's immediately turtle mode at this point, right?
Vayne has to turtle at this point. As you can saw, like I was talking about, they kept getting baited. They keep falling for Zero's traps, and even in that team fight, they had 4 people up there. They should have been able to handle that. However, it wasn't possible, and they all got shredded. So they have to sit at base. They have to think of something, and if they can see the opportunity, they need to take it. Unfortunately, there's a very small window open, and so they have to rely on it. Their best chance would be that Zero Gravity wants to do a team push, go through the middle, maybe just go up mid, and and these guys have to have a good defense to answer that. Maybe take out the Murad first if they're lucky, and then after that work their way through Alice, Irie, and Malik.
Yeah, so far Slayer buff doing some work for Zero Gravity, but they've still yet to breach the rest of those high ground towers. Mid has obviously gone already, but can this be defended well by Vain if Zero Gravity keep pressuring these towers? I don't know if they have the anti-siege needed at this point with the dive and the shock and the constant siege from Murad. The problem with this being that the more these lanes push in, the less that Vain are able to go out and clear those jungle minions, which will allow for that constant hit and run tactic coming out from Murad that you can see at play here. He's going to run in, take everyone down to half health, then back out, farm up, come back in. And it's a frustrating and infuriating tactic to fight against, but there's very little you can do without being able to push out and take those jungle minions.
And this is one of those rare cases where I did warn at the beginning of the game that in order to control Murad, you have to control the jungle. The jungle wasn't controlled. He was able to get in there. His side was not even contested once. And after that, and of course it is rare to find Murad players because he is mechanically challenging, so not many people can get the hang of him. So the fact that this Murad knows what he's doing and he's able to take advantage of all that makes him that much more of a threat.
Yeah, Murad is always a threat, but like early game, he's relatively weak. He is very squishy, so it does require a lot of skill to play him well, to get him to the stage that we're seeing him being played at now. It requires either a lack of attention from the enemy or a lot of skillful play coming out from the Murad on the side of Zero Gravity. Either way, I think he had both. I think he's obviously playing the hero very well, but there was definitely a lack of early aggression from the side of Vain in invading the enemy jungle or taking away any of those things to stop him getting to this stage. With the ability to have the shock come down from Malok and the hissy fit as cover, that's just going to hold so many people in place ready for that ultimate from Murad. This has been a very by the numbers game so far for Zero Gravity. We saw early that they were just taking little bit by little bit, tiny advantages here and there. But now as we come towards the late game, you can see that 6k gold difference is definitely going in favor of Zero Gravity, and they are using that gold difference. You can see the advantage, and they are making use of that in these team fights. As we break into another one here, you can see Murad dancing in and out. Joker uses the laughing gas canister, and that will be enough to do some decent damage. However, Irie managed to pick up the kill there regardless, and that is a big push in now from Zero Gravity. Shock does come down. Malok picking up that kill onto the Zenial. Vain having to fight for their lives and fight for the base right now, and Arthur does do that as best he can as he picks up Irie, but Legendary now on the L'Oreal as she takes the counter kill there. This bot tower, the wave is pushing in. This is going to be another high ground tower going, and that's 2 for 3 right now for Zero Gravity. They'll be looking to take that last one now because the wave is actually pushing in as well, and with several members of the Vain team dead already, I don't know if they'll be able to save this last remaining high ground tower.
At this point, Vain realizes the very tight spot that they're in, and of course, like you're talking about with the Malik and the Alice, and it just is there. And Murad, being as aggressive as he is, it's definitely starting to get them. Now, another thing that we have to consider is the items that Vain possibly took. I currently can't tell right now, but as I actually look over here. So, magic resistance coming out, and I know Arthur's trying to cover that on a certain basis. He's got most of the tanky items, but they're still getting shredded. Of course, Malik's got his true damage that we're working with around here. But overall, the items don't counter them as well as you want them to.
I've got to point out the Hercules madness on the Alice. I'm sorry, but that is literal madness. I love it. I love to see obscure items being put onto heroes you would not normally see it. That will offer several defensive stats, but one of its big things is that once you dip below 40%, you will generate a large shield, which is going to work really well. I do believe you may also get a movement speed buff at certain points as well, which will synchronize well with her trot passive. Again, still aggressive here from Vain. I did not expect them to be playing this aggressive given how far back they are right now, but I suppose it's a case of if they don't play aggressive, they are just going to lose. However, now they are down several members. We can see Irie does go in, great stun up, and it does actually manage to do significant damage before she dies, in fact. Meanwhile, Vain still fighting for their lives, but Zephys will go down as well, and now this looks like it might be the end for Vain as Zero Gravity push in as hard as they can and take that base. Really well played there at the end there. Maybe a little bit too over-aggressive from Vain, but they had to do something. Zero Gravity managed to secure the victory, though. GG.
You know, that end game part, Vayne, at that point, I would imagine, was most likely desperate. Like you said, there's not a lot of moves left. And so they thought, let's try it. Now, the very ending, though, they did seem to go in 1 by 1. So rather than going as a team, I understand why they did that, though. They were most likely trying to keep the space from the Malik and the Alice. If they all went in as a group, that would just call it the end of the day. But of course, Irie would just come and go through the backline ultimate. And so as you can see, there was a lot of counter moves from Zero Gravity, which is how they got a hold of the situation in the first place. But overall, GG, we had a neutral start, and then, as you can see, Zero Gravity just countered them all the way.
Yeah, really, really well played. The 11-0-14 on that L'Oreal, it has to be brought to the attention. Zero Gravity obviously played great as a team, only losing only 8 kills going against them the entire game. But look at where those 8 kills are. They, 4 on the Murad, 3 on the Irie, 1 on the Alice. But that L'Oreal staying completely safe throughout the entirety of the game. A very defensive build coming out from the L'Oreal. In fact, if you look there, you've got the Beriths, you have you have Endure, you have even a Male of Pain. In fact, almost called it the wrong name there. Male of Pain and the Aegis. So a very defensive build coming out of her, and yet still 11-0-14 on that scoreline. So really well played to Zero Gravity. Great stuff all around.